Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Min-Kyu from KDI, and I'm very pleased to give some comments on the insightful presentations we saw. I'm going to overview the first and fourth presentations, Global Crisis and Microfinance by Mr. Eric Duflos, and the Principles for Innovative Financial Inclusions by Ms. Ruth Goodwin-Growen. The first paper is about the current issues of microfinance industry associated with the recent crisis. He pointed out big challenges microfinance industry met during the crisis. The financial crisis itself and the global economic recession and food crisis together. He talked about the client's perspective also, kind of vicious cycle he was telling can be found to be an amplifying risk factor, that is economic recession, low remittance, over leverage by clients, which again make worse economic situation and so forth. And microfinance firms are also stressed by liquidity constraints and lowering asset quality they hold. However, he expects that the industry seems to be hanging along and growing. Of course, there were lots of things done by the government. For example, during the crisis, for example, the regulations and subsidized lending, guarantee funds, and others. He also suggested for the development of microfinance industry after the crisis. He especially highlighted client protection, more responsible culture in the industry, among others. The interesting thing in the presentation to me was the role of government in the microfinance industry. The industry is, at least in some part, I think, inevitably related with the kind of market failures from its birth, I mean the origination of the industry. So government intervention in the industry might be indispensable, more or less. Now, the current crisis made few people feel the governmental measures be problematic, but are these okay after the crisis? Or don't we need to keep some policies even after the crisis? For example, interest rate caps and governmental subsidies. No, he's nodding. It was very hard for me to find general guidelines or principles of when and how much governmental supports are needed for the microfinance industry, and how and when the supports should be eliminated, whether the crisis happened or not. I think we have to study this part more seriously later. And the fourth paper by Goodwin-Growen discusses a series of principles of the development of microfinance. These are what she suggested, and I totally agree with you. And I would like to add some points to her arguments, if allowed. First, I think it would be good to have more concrete vision on the expansion of the investor base. I mean, if we want market-based funding for microfinance industry too. Microfinance investment is more like fixed income investment rather than equity investment, but has some common features of venture capital, angel capitals in some senses. So if we can visualize in our mind the characteristics of microfinance investment distinguished from other asset classes, it would be very good for the future researchers like me. Second, I think the roles of the microfinance in developed countries are very different from the underdeveloped countries. For example, I often ask myself whether the Korean economy needs the microfinance industry. Seriously, I mean. We already have a lot of banks and other finance intermediaries. Of course, we have some finance intermediaries, especially specialized in agricultural industry and relatively low-rated borrowers. If I assert my microfinance is needed in this economy, what kind of business model it should have? I mean, these questions are basically about the microfinance industry in the relatively more advanced countries. Third, microfinance firms should have good expertise in advising the borrowers' businesses. Just lending money and waiting for the payback is about the conventional commercial banks business, not for the microfinances, I think. Microfinance, I think, should be more active in advisory services. So microfinance firms should keep accumulating advisory knowledge, like a little bit like venture or angel capitalists. Fourth, microfinance should not be abused politically, I think. Since the industry usually focuses on the poor class, it could be affected a lot by political cycles or public popularity. So, of course, coordination is important, but we need some guidelines for the conflicts of interest among agents, like government, industry capitals as well. Okay, this is all I wanted to say here. I learned a lot from the presentations. Thank you very much.